Uh, Welcome back to Daily Read on YouTube. Once again, the working website is going to be www.realhistory.com, and the WW stands for worldwide. All right, so the whole premise of this website is that the world's first human beings and all their civilizations were diverse blacks. Now, guys, if you do not understand genetic mutations and you know which produces variations over time, that's going to be a lot of problems for you and me saying that the original human beings of the entire planet were diverse blacks. So just imagine, if you will, before there were any variations of non-brown-eyed peoples. That is, at one point the whole planet was just dark brown-eyed peoples, and something happened that brown-eyed peoples, genetically speaking, were able to produce the first blue-eyed peoples, for example. And likewise for the redheads and blondes, and likewise for non-black skin. So when I say the world's first human beings and all their civilizations, I'm simply saying that before black skin gave birth to non-black skin, before brown eyes gave birth to non-brown eyes, before black hair produced the redheads and blondes, before woolly hair gave birth to straight hair, etc., basic genetic mutations over time, all human beings on this planet were black skinned peoples. Okay? Now, when we left off last, we are talking about the black and brown royalty and nobility of Great Britain, and we explained that brown skin, be it dark brown or light brown skin, is basically black skin reduced. That means a black skin person, eumelanin base, mixed with a non-black skin person and produce a lighter variation, typically a light yellow or darker yellow skin, or as they affectionately say, red bones, yeah? And then they would mix back with black skin peoples and produce light brown peoples, and the different levels of mixtures would produce different skin colors, okay? And we introduced John Mackey, and I'm going to read a snippet of information about him, okay? And then we'll pick up where we left off. All right. So this wiki of John Mackey is excerpted from Dictionary of National Biography, 1885 to 1900, volume 35. Mackey John by Thomas Finlayson Henderson. Okay. Mackey John, died 1726, was a government agent or spy, author of Memoirs of Secret Services, was a Scotsman of good education, but of his parentage or birth nothing is known. According to his own account, he came early into the measures of the Revolution, and being on the return of King James from Ireland to France, sent to Paris to find out on the further purposes of the Jacobites. He discovered that the French government intended to send an expedition against England in 1692. He arrived in London with the information before James reached his army encamped at La Hogue, and thus gave the government ample time for preparations against it. On the return of King William to England in October 1693, he was appointed Inspector of the Coast from Harwich to Dover in order to prevent treasonable correspondence between the two countries by passengers or letters. He discovered the proposed descent on England in 1696 in connection with the assassination plot of Sir George Berkeley. And after its disclosure, published a view of the court of St. Germain's from the year 1690 to 1695, with an account of the entertainment Protestants meet with there. Okay, meet with there. Directed to the malcontent Protestants of England, 1696. Of this pamphlet, he states that no fewer than 30,000 copies were sold. After the Peace of Ryswick, 20 September 1697, he had the direction of the packet boats from Dover to France and Flanders, and he states that during the negotiations connected with the Partition Treaty in 1698, he had the charge of transmitting all the private expresses that passed between King Williams and Lord Portland. Okay, so basically, guys, I don't want to read this whole thing again. I just wanted to give you a quick, snippet of information. Basically, he was a spy, and he ran packet boats, and he was in different positions. You guys can go ahead and read this. If you go to just type in the website www.realhistory, and then just type in Black Britain Part 2. Okay, so I don't want to waste time going through all that. But just give you an overview of who he was. He wrote the book. What's important, he wrote this book. It's called Memoirs of the Secret Services, okay, of John Mackey. And then you could look that up on the internet. But anyways, I wanted to continue. So we left off at, I think it was number 35, okay? Let's get down here to 35. Where's 35? Here it is, 35. Now, basically what we're doing, we're comparing what John Mackey saw when he went to the court of Great Britain. And if you would type these people's name in on the internet today, you would get a completely different description of that person. Okay? So if you would type in, for example, John Duke of Newcastle on the internet, you would get a non-black skin person. And then let's see how John Mackey would describe them, because he actually went to the British court and he saw these peoples. All right? Here we go. Okay, Court of Great Britain. Okay, John Duke of Newcastle is of the name of. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay, is of the name of Hollis, was Earl of Clare before the Revolution, and married a daughter of the late Duke of Newcastle's, who died without heirs male. King William created this gentleman a duke and gave him the garter. He hath the best estate in England, and employs most of his time in improving it. Is very covetous, yet makes a great figure at his seat in Yorkshire. Is firm for the constitution of his country, and hath one only daughter, who will be the richest heiress in Europe. He is a black, ruddy complexioned man, near 60 years old. And ruddy talked about black people's first. Okay, ruddy means that your skin is so black that when the UV radiation, whether it's the UV A or B, hits it from the sun, it reflects a reddish complexion or sanguine. Okay. Just for example, you can see someone who's so melanated that when the UV radiation hits their skin, it reflects a bluish or purplish hue. Same thing. Okay? So if you look up John Duke of Newcastle, it's going to give you a non-black skinned person. But John Mackey, who actually went to Britain and saw him, says he is a black, ruddy complexioned man near 60 years old. Okay? And that was 35. Now let's go to page 90. Okay? Okay, this one is Heneage Finch, Lord Gorfy. Now you have to excuse me, this old English is really old. All right, so it's very difficult to read. Okay, all right, this is Heneage Finch, Lord Gorfy, is the second son of my Lord Chancellor Finch, brother to the Earl of Nottingham, and was solicitor to King James II, I believe. He was always a great opposer of it. This kind of blotted out. Okay, opposer of it, I guess. Measures of King William's reign, and on the Queen's ascension to the throne was made a peer by the tide of Lord Gorfy. He is accounted one of the greatest orators in England, and a good common lawyer, a firm affecter of prerogative of the crown and jurisdiction of the church, a tall, thin, black man. Okay? And I don't know what this hell is this says right here. Fantastic, I believe. Near 50 years old. Okay? So if you look up Heneage Finch, Lord Gorfy on the internet today, they're not going to give you a black person. But John Mackey, who went to Britain, the court of Great Britain, and saw him, says he's a tall, thin, black man. Okay? Near 50 years old. Now let's go to page 96. This is Montague Venables Bertie, Earl of Abingdon. Okay? Is a branch of the Berties, a gentleman of fine parts, makes a good figure in the counties of Oxford and Buckinghamshire, was made by the Queen Constable of the Tower of London, is very high for the monarchy and church, of a black complexion, past 40 years old. Okay, and let's go down on page 96, and this is going to talk about Philip Stanhope, Earl of Chesterfield, is the representative of the Stanhopes, a good family in England. He is very subtle and cunning, never entered into the measures of King William's, nor ever will, in all probability, make any great appearance in any other reign. He is above 50 years old. And notice the writing there is missing, so they don't give us any information right there. And perhaps, who knows, they could have erased information, guys. You can't put anything past these peoples and wrote something in here. But anyways, moving on. Now, I'm going to show you that John Mackey is very fair. Okay? Now, the word fair does not mean pale skin. Fair originally meant beautiful, but for the sake of argument, let's see, when he says fair complexion, that means non-black or brown. Okay? All right. So it could be anywhere from a red skin to pink, white, creamy white, like milk, or pale white, because not all white peoples are white. They actually have multiple skin colors. Okay? Now, for example, let me give you an example of this on page 98. The characters of the court of Great Britain. Okay? Thomas, Earl of Aylesbury, is a branch of the ancient family of, I believe it's Bruce in Scotland. This gentleman declared himself for King James and is now abroad. Does not want sense. Is very tall, fair complexion, past 50 years old. That means he's non-black or brown skin. So this guy is very fair. Okay? Now, let's look to, I'm only trying to figure out all the black nobility, okay, and the brown. Okay, brown being black reduced through admixture. Okay, let's look up Neville, Lord Lovelace. Is Lieutenant Colonel of the House Guards, a very pretty gentleman of good sense and well at court, a short, fat, brown man, not 40 years old. And remember, brown skin is black skin peoples mixing with non-black skin peoples, producing high yellow or light yellow, or, you know, as they affectionately say, red bone. And these people mix back with black skin and produce light skin peoples, light brown peoples rather, and we get different skin colors through different mixing of different pigmentations. Okay, now I'm only going to read where it's red because that's where it's important. That's what I'm trying to separate and show that Britain today is not Britain of yesteryear. Okay, so here's the ones in red. This is Earl of Feverham, I believe, is a third son of the family of Dover in France. I believe that's what it is, Dover. He came over with one of the dukes of Torque's family, was made an earl, had the garter and a troop of guards, was lieutenant general of that prince's army. He took the oath to King William and came to Parliament. He is a middle-statured brown man, turned of 50 years old. And if you look him up on the internet today, you're going to find he's not a brown person. He's put it there as a so-called white person. Okay, even though I've never met a white person. They're typically red or pink peoples. There are a few white, creamy white, or pale white, but that's another story. All right, George Lord Abergavenny is gentleman of the bedchamber to the Prince of Denmark, hath learning with and one of the best libraries in England, is a little brown man, very lovely, 30 years old. Okay? Let's keep going. Okay, let's go to Court of Great Britain, page 103. Ford, Lord Grey of Work. Okay? And basically, instead of me reading the whole thing, I'm just going to read what he is, his description. Okay? So we can save time. Okay, so you guys can go back and look it up and read, because the whole purpose of this website is to get you guys to read. Okay, the more you read, the more you know. All right, so Court of Great Britain, page 103. For Lord Grey of Work, he's described as a thin, brown, handsome man, middle stature, turned of 40 years old. Okay? And John Lord Alberham, I believe. Okay, let's see how they describe him. Is a thin, brown man, 50 years old. This is Great Britain, people. Okay, then let's look up John, Archbishop of York. Is a black man and 50 years old. This is page 137. You can read it for yourself here. Let me put it up here so you can see it. John, Archbishop of York, is Dr. Sharp. He was receptor of St. Giles in the fields in the reign of King James. Okay, and he is one of the greatest ornaments of the Church of England, of a great piety and learning, a black man and 50 years old guy. Okay, now let's go to foreign ministers. Foreign ministers. Okay, let's see if we have it in red. Okay, here we go. In foreign ministers, page 143, Mr. Methuen, ambassador to the King of Portugal. Let's go to his description. He is a man of intrigue, but very muddy in his conceptions, and not quickly understood in anything. In his complexions and manners, much of a Spaniard, a tall black man, 50 years old. The Spaniards were black-skinned peoples because King George III, that America gained its independence from in 1776, is described as being as black as a Spaniard or a Jew. Now remember, black is a color, and all human beings have that color first. So when I say black, does not necessarily mean woolly hair black peoples. It could be straight hair black peoples or curly hair black peoples. It doesn't have to be a dominant shape of the nose or a larger aperture, right? It could be a recessive, more streamlined, like, Pinocchio, for example. Okay, so let me read it again. This is Mr. Methuen, is the ambassador to the King of Portugal. He is a man of intrigue, but very muddy in his conceptions and not quickly understood in anything. In his complexion and manners, much of a Spaniard, a tall black man, 50 years old. Okay, this is page, this is Foreign Ministers, page 151. Mr. Stanhope, envoy extraordinary to the States General of the United Provinces. Okay, he's of the family of Chesterfield. Okay, all right. Now let's go to his description. Go down. His son, Colonel Stanhope, is one of the finest young gentlemen we have. Is very learned with a great deal of wit. King William designed to have sent him to the court of I believe that's Sweden, and he is certainly fit for any negotiation. The father is now old, and the son a handsome black man, turned of 30 years of age. And this is Mr. Stanhope, envoy extraordinary to the States General of the United Provinces. This is Great Britain. Okay, now let's go over to characters of the Court of Great Britain, I believe. And this one is page 162. And it says Earl of Orkney, Lieutenant General, is a fourth son of the late Duke Hamilton, right? And brother of the present. He was bred under his uncle, my lord, I believe that's Dunharton, who died in France. And after the revolution had his regiment. He is a very well-shaped black man. Is brave, but by reason of I believe that's hesitation in his speech, wants expression. Married Miss Williers and got a good estate by her. Is turned of 40 years old. Okay. So he's a very well-shaped black man. This is Great Britain, guys. Okay, let's move on. So anywhere in red is my interest. So let's go to officers, military, and naval. And this is the book by John Mackey. Now, if you guys do check out the book, just keep in mind the book has been, for lack of a better term, whitewashed. So it won't show you that, for example, America gained its independence from a king of Britain they describe as being as black as a Spaniard or a Jew in 1776. They won't have this one, all right? So if you do get the book, just know that a lot of information has been taken out, or you'll see a lot of pages. It looks like pictures were taken out. All right, so let's look at page 171, which is the officers, military, and naval. Sir Stafford Fairborn, Vice Admiral, is son of Sir Palms Fairborn, who was governor of Tangier, where this gentleman was born. He hath his education from a boy at sea. He is a very brave, much of a man of honor, loves play, and a bottle a little. Hath a good sense, is fat, swarthy, of a more, I believe it says, well, swarthy, for example, swarthy means black, like Svart, or Sparty, like, for example, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold Swart means black, nigger. So Arnold, black, nigger, right? So swarthy means black complexion or dark complexion. So let me start again. He is very brave, much of a man of honor, loves play, and a bottle a little. Have good sense, is fat, swarthy, of a morifin complexion, towards 50 years old. Okay, let's move on. All right, let's go to officers, military, and naval, page 175, right? Rear Admiral Wilhart was born in Scotland and came over with King Williams at the Revolution in a very ordinary capacity. By great application, he had raised himself to what he now is. He is a close, prudent man, understands the sea very well, reckon a dissenter, and is a great patron of the faction in the fleet. He had great luck in prizes and purchased a good estate. He is a black man towards 50 years old. This is Great Britain. Still majority ruled by black peoples in the 1700s. I believe the last black king of Britain ruled perhaps up to 1800. But that's a story for another day. I believe it was King George III. All right, nobility of Scotland, okay? Page 185. This is a different book, I believe, by the same person. Marquis of Annandale, President of the Council, right? This is the nobility of Scotland. Okay, so I'm going to read this. I think it's important. Is chief of ancient family of, I believe it says Johnstown or Johnson, and fell in heartily at the Revolution with King William's parry, and in a few months after entered into a design for restoring King James, which being discovered by the apprehension of Neville Paynes, who was sent from England to carry it on, he submitted himself to King William, confessed his fault, and had his pardon. He was often out and in the ministry during the king's reign, is extremely carried away by his private interests, hath good sense with a manly expression, but not much to be trusted, makes as fine a figure in the Parliament House as he does in his person, being tall, lofty, and well shaped, with a very black complexion. Her Majesty created him from Earl to Marquis of Annandale and Knight Companion of the Thistle. He is near 50 years old. Now, this is Old English, guys, so it's really old. All right? And we are talking about Britain and Scotland and, Ireland. We're all over the place. Okay? And so let's see what else we haven't read. Page 236, the characters of the court of, Great Britain, or wherever we are. All right, so Lord Belhaven is a branch of the family of Hamilton and was the only peer who opposed the. Well, we're going to have to skip that. I don't know what the hell that says. Let me make it larger. Is a branch of the family of Hamilton and was the only peer who opposed the blank of Sutton in Scotland when the Duke of York was present, for which he was sent prisoner to the castle of Edinburgh. He had been angry with the administration of all reigns since, because he can never get into any post. Sets up for a patriot, loves to make long speeches in Parliament, and had the vanity to print them. A rough, fat, black, noisy man, more like a butcher than a lord, turned of 50 years old. All right. Okay, let's move over. Where else do we have red? Let me make this smaller again. Okay, here we go. This is red. Perfect. All right, so I'm going to save time, guys, and you guys can go ahead and check it out. But if I feel it's very important, I'll read it. But in the meantime, I'm just going to put their name and their description. Now, if you go look them up on the internet, you'll find that they're not as John Mackey saw them, but they probably are most likely non-black. Okay? And this is Richard Lumley, Earl of Scarborough, of the ancient and noble family of Lumley. All these names, they have English names were black-skinned people's, man. Because remember, black is a color, and every human being, every nation had that color first, regardless of their phenotypic characteristics or morphological traits. That is, hair type, skull shape, the shape of the nose, the lips, the eyes, the skull, your body type, black skin first. Okay? So the ancient, he's of the noble family of Lumley. Okay? He was bred up in religion of his family, which had been always Roman Catholic and turned Protestant at the time of Pope Fit plot in the reign of King Charles II. At the Revolution, King Williams created him Earl of Scarborough, made him captain of the troops of horse, guards, and lieutenant general, and one of the gentlemen of bedchamber, all which employments he hold or quitted before Queen Mary died. Not hath entered into any in the reign of this queen. He is a gentleman of a very good sense, a great lover of the constitution of his country, and an improver of trade. And his genius lay very much this way: a handsome man of a brown complexion, turned of 50 years old. Now let's move over here to Earl of Kingston, of the name and family of Pierrepoint, hath a very good estate, is a very fine gentleman, of good sense, well bred, and a lover of the ladies, like myself, entirely in the interest of his country, makes a good figure, is of a black complexion, well made, not 40 years old. Okay, now let's keep moving. All right. Sir George Rook. All right, so I'm just going to read his definition because there's a lot of information, guys. So please, guys, you got to read every day. It's called Daily Read. So I'm giving you snippets, and you got to go read. You have to research. Thank you. All right, so this is Sir George Rook. He maintains all his ships with his sword and is ready enough to give any man satisfaction who questions his conduct that way. If he had the misfortune to do no service as yet to his country, he had the capacity to do a great deal if he pleases to apply himself to it. He is a stern-looked man of a brown complexion, well-shaped, and 60 years old. This is James Vernon, EFQ, teller of the Exchequer. Okay, it was basically, let me make this bigger, was clerk in the Secretary of Office in King Charles II's reign, secretary to the Duke of Monmouth, and at the Revolution was Under Secretary to the Duke of Shrewsbury, then Secretary of State, in which post he continued as also Under Secretary to Trenchard and when the Duke came in a second time. Okay, so let's go to his description. No man understands all parts of that great office better than he, nor could manage it with so much prudence. Okay? He is a tall, thin man, brown complexion, with an Austrian lip, a good eye, careless in his dress, I believe, and rough in his behavior, turned of 60 years old. This is Colonel Matthew Aylmer, Vice Admiral of the Fleet. Basically, he was page to the Duke of Buckingham, and by him was sent a made to sea. He commanded the ship in the reign of King James, and after the engagement of La Hogue, wherein Rear Admiral Carter was killed, he was made Rear Admiral. He was afterwards sent to the Mediterranean, where he gained a great deal of reputation by the treaties he concluded at Algiers, Tunis, and Tripoli. On the Queen's ascension to the throne, because he would not serve under Colonel Churchill, he was dismissed from all his employments. He had a very good head in the gable and designing. Man, forgive me, guys, this is all English. Is very zealous for the liberties of the people, makes good figure in the Parliament, as the fleet, is handsome in his person, a brown man turned of 50 years old. Okay? Now let's keep going. This is Marquis of Tweedale, a branch of, let me make this bigger, page 186, Characters of the Court of Great Britain. Marquis of Tweedale, a branch of the ancient and noble family of Hay, son to that Marquis who was Commissioner and Chancellor at the passing of the Darien Company Act, a great encourager and promoter of trade and the welfare of his country. He had good sense, is very modest, much a man of honor, and hot when piqued. He is highly esteemed in his country and may make a considerable figure in it now. He is named by the Queen to be Lord High Chancellor, a short, brown man towards 60 years old. And with the thing with this old English, it looks like an F, but it's actually a S, because it says 60. Okay. All right, so this is Andrew Fletcher of Salton, okay? Is a gentleman of a fair estate in Scotland, attended with the improvement of a good education. He was knight of the shire for Lothian in that parliament wherein the Duke of York was commissioner in the reign of King Charles II, and openly opposed the arbitrary design of that prince and the fatal bill of accession, which obliged him to wisely to retire first to England and then to Holland. Let's see his description. He hath written some excellent tracts, but not published in his name, and hath a very fine genius, is a low, thin man, brown complexion, full of fire, with a stern, sour look, and 50 years old. And this is the Earl. This is the Nobility of Scotland, page 241. Earl of Perth. Okay, let's make this a little bit bigger. Is representative of the ancient and noble family of Drummond. In his younger years, he was zealous I believe that says Presbyterian. But coming to England to the court of King Charles II, he turned to the Church of England and was all that reigned very zealous for episcopacy, made Lord Justice General and afterwards Lord High Chancellor. When King James came to the throne, he declared himself a Roman Catholic and was a violent carrier on the arbitrary proceedings in that reign. He was taken prisoner at the Revolution, but after some years he was set at liberty and went to France, where he was made governor to the extended Prince of Wales, in which he now continues at St. Germain's. He is of middle stature, with a quick look, of a brown complexion, and towards 50 years old. And guys, I am dark brown. So, basically, if you think about it, if you reduce, let's say you reduce black by half, you get light brown. If you reduce it by 3/4, you just reduce the darkest color, you can end up with different colors, okay? Now, let's keep going. Now, this is the nobility of Scotland, all right? We're going to pick up here this is part 2, so we're going to pick up in part 3, and beginning with the nobility of Scotland, page 243 by John Mackey. All right. So once again, guys, I thank you for checking out my post. The website again is realhistorywww.com, and the WW stands for worldwide. All right. So we're actually going to read, and hopefully you read it and check it out. A lot of people go to my page and they want to type back and forth, but that's not the purpose of the whole thing. The whole purpose is for you to read the information, research the information, and form logical conclusions based on genetic science, not your emotions, or how you feel. Okay? So once we learn genetic science, we know where the first redheads came from. We know where the first blondes came from. We know where the first blue-eyed, green-eyed, hazel-eyed, gray-eyed. We know where the first red skin, pink, white, creamy white, pale white skin. We know that black skin mixed with non-black skin produces yellow skin, and they mix back with black skin and produce light brown skin, etc. So different levels of admixture. Curly hair is a combination of woolly hair plus straight hair. Straight hair is a mutation from woolly hair. Basic genetic science. Okay, guys? So please check out the website. This website is for reading. As soon as I get to about 100 subscribers, I'll get to the big screen and start doing more presentations and stuff, PowerPoints and things like that. So if you like the information, please subscribe to the channel. Right now, I just started doing it, so I'm like at 19 subscribers, which is not bad, okay? And I appreciate you for checking it out, and hopefully you guys stay safe in this, coronavirus, and hopefully we get out of this alive. Peace.